Thank you very much, Mr. Todd, for that lovely elevator music while we're waiting. So we will begin. We do have this session recorded. So we have a small group of Year 7 parents currently joining us. So a nice warm welcome to all of you this afternoon. Thank you very much for attending this Year 7 parent webinar. I will be moving to a presentation, and then mostly myself and Mrs. Dickinson and Mr. Todd will be speaking this afternoon with contributions from other faculty members where appropriate. So a nice warm welcome to everyone, and we will get started. So I'll just share my screen, just give me a second. Right, and I'm hoping that everyone can see that first slide. Mr. Todd, Mrs. Dickinson, can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you very much. So the main purpose of our Year 7 parent webinar is to bring our Year 7 parents together so that we can provide some information that will be useful for you in supporting your son or daughter over the year. We will be covering some key topics this afternoon. We will revisit the role of the advisor and talk a little bit more about that. We'll also talk a little bit about the virtual school experience, and then we will draw your attention to some communication tools, course outlines and assessment schedules. And at the end of the session, we will have an opportunity for Q&A. So through the presentation, if you do have particular questions, you can put your question in the chat, in the Zoom call, and we will try and get to your question. If it's a specific question about your child and your child's experience, and we feel that it's best that we respond to your question outside of the presentation, then we will follow that up and do that accordingly. So, but please, if you do have some general questions, put your questions in the chat this afternoon. So the role of the advisor across the secondary school at ACG School Jakarta is a really important one. The advisor is the parent's main point of contact. So as a parent of Year 7, your child's advisor is your first point of contact if you have a particular question or concern, or you need something clarified. But the advisor plays a supportive role, not only overseeing the academic performance and progress of the students, but also taking on a really important pastoral care responsibility and role. So looking out for the students' academic progress and social, emotional well-being. So the advisors are subject teachers in the secondary school as well. So some advisors will teach their advisees in their subject, some will not. But generally, what we're asking of parents is that any questions or concerns, or you're seeking some clarification about something, your first point of contact will be the student's advisor. So in Year 7, we have two very committed and supportive advisors, Mrs. Dickinson and Miss Dina, and both advisors work very, very closely together with our Year 7 group and create a really supportive and warm environment for our Year 7s. Given that our Year 7 year is a transition year, students generally coming up from the IB primary years program into year 7. Some students join our school at year 7. So the adjustment that is required is significant. And so the advisor plays an important role in supporting those students as they transition and adjust to the new school environment. And obviously this year it's been made even more challenging given that we have started the school year with virtual schooling. In year 7, we have a number of subject teachers who are online this afternoon who teach your son or daughter in various subjects. I won't go through the list this afternoon, but I'm sure if you haven't had any direct contact with your son or daughter's subject teachers and you're wanting to reach out to them, we'll cover off a few ways in which you can reach out to your son or daughter's subject teachers. But as you can see, it's quite different to a primary environment. Generally in the primary school, you have a homeroom teacher who spends a significant amount of time with your son or daughter, and then there'll be some specialists. In the secondary school, starting at year 7, we have specialists all the way through. So there are a number of teachers that your son or daughter will interact with throughout the academic year, and all students in year 7 will take English and global perspectives, mathematics, science, design, technology, music, and then there'll be some choices around languages, and all students will take art, physical education. So really important that if you do have some concerns or questions to reach out to the advisor. If the subject teachers have some questions or concerns about your son or daughter through their learning, they may contact you directly, but otherwise they will feed information back to the advisor, who will then follow up with you as a parent and begin that process of trying to support the child through whatever challenge or situation they are dealing with. Just a reminder for parents that the daily structure at our school, in the secondary school particularly, was adjusted this academic year. It does take into account the fact that we are currently in full virtual school. So it is a busy morning followed by a brief snack, and then a busy mid-morning followed by a lunch break, and then in the afternoon one period before an advisory period. We have communicated to teachers just recently about eating and drinking, and we've received some feedback across the secondary school that some students are finding it difficult to prepare snacks and drinks particularly during their lunch breaks. So we have advised teachers to communicate to students that it's okay to have a drink or a snack or something to eat through a particular lesson, but it's not to be a distraction or not to create a distraction with the online learning and the synchronous delivery. But that's just something that we want to make parents aware of, and we will, once we return to face-to-face teaching, have a look at our daily structure, and we may need to make some adjustments. In terms of the advisory session at the end of the day, it is a really important session for our students. Not only is it an opportunity for the advisor to touch base with the students, but it's also an opportunity for our national curriculum teachers, Christian studies, Islamic studies, and Indonesian studies, to touch base with students from time to time to check on their progress through the asynchronous learning that they are doing on a weekly basis. So that's just a bit of a reminder for parents there about the daily structure. The virtual school experience is one that we wanted to discuss a little bit more this afternoon, and I've asked Mrs. Dickinson to cover off some of these main points for parents about the virtual school experience. Joanne, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Sean. And lovely, and thank you everybody for coming this afternoon. So obviously a virtual school learning is going to be a different and very, very exciting opportunity for students to learn. However, it does come with its challenges. And first and foremost, we have to try and ensure that the children actually still feel as though they're at school, that there is routine in their day and that there are lessons to go to and things need to start and finish on time and lunchtime is at a particular time. So going back to that, it's the start of the day. So the kids need to be up and out of bed and showered and ready to learn and sitting at their work area by 8 o'clock or at least a couple of minutes before, and their workspace needs to be, if possible, in an area not too noisy, so we don't want a vacuum cleaner going on in the background. However, we do need to make sure that they're not huddled away in their bedroom on their own where they could be doing other things that other than learning. So a nice area set up could be in the dining room or in the living room or in a public area where you can just keep your eye on them if possible, just to make sure that they are taking breaks when they should be doing, that they are making sure that they're drinking throughout their day. As I said, dressed and ready for school, ready to learn, and in their work area, they should have their stationery ready. I mean, we keep talking about this, and I know that most of you have already picked up the ACG books, and we've got stationery, pens, papers, books for DT, for design technology, math books, erasers, and an art kit for everybody. So that should be in their little workspace. I know this morning when we were working with the year 7s, I asked the students, have you got your notebooks ready? Oh, and they all had to run off and get them. So these should be all ready in their work area. So if you just help us out with that, just to make sure that in their workspace, it's neat and tidy. I had, with the year 7s this morning, I showed them a video of one of the previous year 7 students showing them how to handle virtual learning. She had this great workspace sorted out. She showed them how she kept her notes in her books. And I think they really appreciated it. And it was one of the students that they already knew, so that they could really connect with her. What's been happening in the last few weeks or so is about the internet connection. We are all aware that the internet connection in Jakarta it's not having a great time at the moment, primarily because so many more millions of people have decided to start using the internet for learning, for operating in business. And therefore, it's made the internet connections in our homes a little bit unstable. So even though in your home as a mom or a dad, you might be, you're on your laptop, you're sending an email, or you are receiving an email, or you're having a little bit of a chat with somebody, or you're sending a document, it's fine as a mum or dad. But for our kids, they need to have Teams on. And in Teams, obviously, they've got a video on. They've also got an audio, and we're showing them videos, or we're sharing all kinds of learning materials quickly. And therefore, the bandwidth in your house or in your apartment needs to be pretty good. Like in my house, I've got 3 different routers going on. If one router pops off, at least I've got another 2. So I do have children who are sitting right next to the router, and then suddenly everything goes a little bit off. So if you can, just sit with your child and see how it's going. I can see their pictures in front of me going all fuzzy. And, I had one of my students this morning at 8 o'clock said, my internet's all over the place. So just check with your kids that your internet's good. We must use laptops for secondary school. I know the children would have had them in year 6 when you did exhibition. I'm pretty sure most of you got your kids' laptops at that time. We have a BYOD, so we have a policy which is bring your own device to school, even though you're at home. And we recommend a laptop. It's really not appropriate or suitable for the kids to be using iPads at this point, or their phones or tablets. They really need to have a laptop. Now, they're on our policy, there are guidelines of the particular kind of laptop that you need. You're not going out and buying the top of the range laptop. You're just buying the kids a laptop that will enable them to access their learning. Checking emails, Teams chat, ManageBack. Mr. Hutchinson, myself and Mr. Todd were talking a couple of days ago and saying that the kids are all over Discord, they're all over Snapchat and Instagram, and, you know, very fast at communicating on that platform. And now we're adding another couple of platforms, but they're for educational purposes only. They're not used to checking their emails. They're not used to checking the Teams chats and messages every day and ManageBack. So for the 7s, I've said their emails, they need to check it at least once a day. Twice will be better. So once before school, once at the end of school. How many times do we check our email? Yeah, mums and dads, how many times do we check? Probably about 50 per day. It would be lovely if we could do it twice a day. So if we can get them into a habit, just put a sticker on the fridge, have you checked your email today? And for teams, so they have a team for every subject. And within that team, they just need to check every day if there are messages. And the same with ManageBack, that they're checking ManageBack at least once a day as well. But Teams is more often, and ManageBack I would try once a day, and their email at least twice a day. We keep reminding them, Miss Dina and I, all the time. And the last one is, as I said earlier, they're great with Snapchat and Discord, and the kind of language that they use on those communication platforms, we probably don't even understand it, but they do. But when we bring it into Teams and emails, it doesn't work. So we're trying to re-educate the kids to use formal language with us, to use polite language. So I will send a message, for example, could you, hi X, could you upload your homework, please? That's a nice polite statement. And then the response might be, yep, YEP, no capital Y, not even, hi, Miss Joanne, yep. So I think what we need to do is remind the to look in their teams and see what kind of, they're not using foul language. They're just not using formal, polite language. And we need to get them into the habit of doing that and responding to the teachers. Because if I send a message, does that mean my time's up?
No, it means I'm trying to.
If we send a message, we expect a response, and likewise, the kids will send in a message and they'll say to me, "You haven't responded, and I sent it 2 hours ago." So we need to make sure that we get into a culture of responding as quickly as possible and in a polite manner. If you could help us with that, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Joanne. And now I'll just try and control this slide. So as Joanne has highlighted, there are a number of communication tools that we use at school. From a parent's perspective, we really just want to bring to your attention and highlight the tools here. So ManageBack, Office 365, email, and the website. So ManageBack for Year 7 parents may be something new. For those of you who were at our school last year, you would have accessed your child's academic report through ManageBack, and maybe you have submitted an absence notification if your child was absent at school. But this year in Year 7, you'll become a lot more familiar with ManageBack and how we use ManageBack in our school. And so I'll talk a little bit more about the importance of setting that up for you. Office 365 is important to highlight at this point because the students have access to the full suite of Office applications. And so the Teams environment is an environment that the students and the teachers access. And unfortunately, as parents, even though you may have your own private Office 365 account, you can't simply go into a team, a subject team, and have a look at what your child's activities and resources are. So ManageBack is the place for you to go there. And obviously email, I'll talk a little bit more about. And then the website for parents, we're trying to put a lot of resources on our website there for you. So they're the key communication tools for you as parents as we move forward. So as I said, ManageBack is a really important tool for us. For those of you who have provided the school with an email address, which is most of you, you should have received an email invitation from ManageBack, similar to what is on the screen there. And you simply follow the instructions using your email address and setting a password, and then you have access to your child, or if you have 2 children at the school, you'll have access to both of their profiles in ManageBack. One of the really useful things about ManageBack, particularly for busy parents, is that you can download the app on your Android or iOS. So searching for ManageBack, you will be able to then have that on your phone, and you can set notifications. So if you're wanting to be on the go and just keep track of what your child is up to in terms of academic progress, this is an easy, simple way to do that. So as I said, using your email address, and please make sure that you are using the email address that you have provided the school at the time of admissions, or the one that you're receiving the ACG email communication through, because that email address is an identifier to connect you to your son or daughter or children at school. And then you're connected. So one of the reasons why we want to direct parents to ManageBack is that it's an easy way to contact teachers. So if you go into ManageBack, you'll see a list of subjects that your son or daughter is taking, and then of course the subject teacher's name and contact details. So if you're wanting to get in touch with a teacher from time to time, you can communicate with them directly via email, just going into ManageBack and making sure that you've got their correct email address. Another way of getting in touch with teachers, just remembering the pattern that we follow with email addresses. So it's firstname.lastname@acgedu.com, and that screenshot there is actually from our parent and student handbook, which you can access from our public website. You go into our website and you simply go to handbooks, and the handbook section provides the parent and student handbook, where you can find a full list of ACG School Jakarta staff, their title or their role in the school, and their email address. So a couple of ways in which parents can get in touch with our staff at our school. But as I said right at the beginning of the presentation, what we're wanting the parents to do in the first instance, if you've got questions or concern, reach out to the advisor, and the advisor will help you every step of the way. So the common apps that we use in the school, so it's really important just to understand, I guess, how your students are learning and how they're communicating. So as Joanne highlighted, Microsoft Teams is a platform where students and teachers can collaborate and communicate. OneDrive is a tool for students to save all of their work and their data, so it's all in one place. So no need for students to create Google Drives or any other kind of storage facilities. Students can put their work here. They can share their work with their subject teachers through their OneDrive if they need to. We will go into details around how students submit work a little and in a few weeks' time when we're looking at ManageBack workshop for parents. So I won't kind of go into that right now. But OneDrive is a really useful tool for students. And then, of course, Outlook. And Outlook, again, for many of our students, they don't use email. It's a very old style form of communication. Students will generally use tools like Instagram and other platforms to communicate with each other. But we do expect teachers to communicate with students via email from time to time. We do expect students to communicate to teachers via email. So back to ManageBack, and we're just going to highlight a couple of really important features this afternoon for you. We're not trying to overload you with too much information about ManageBack, but at the start of the school year, we're now in week 5. It's a time where you know, you might be having conversations with your son and daughter about what they're doing in classes and what you know, content they're covering, and perhaps when some work is coming up that might involve assessment. And so we're wanting just to draw your attention as parents to a couple of key points in the secondary school. So the first one is around course outlines, and all subject teachers are required to create course outlines for their course. Team leaders oversee this process, and the academic leadership team also oversee this. But course outlines provide information about the course of study that the student is undertaking throughout the year. It'll provide some descriptions about the subject. It'll provide some information about the topics or the units that are being covered throughout the year. And it'll also provide some information about assessment and how students are being assessed throughout the year. So some important information there, and course outlines can be found in ManageBack, clicking on the Files tab, and then you'll see a PDF document that you can click on and you can have a read through. And really useful tip for parents, if you're going to check through this, involve your son or daughter, get them to show you even, so that you can have a read through the course outline together, and that might give you a little bit of an idea of what they're covering in particular subjects. Additionally, assessment schedules are an important document for teachers and students to support them through the learning process, and a useful document for parents to refer to from time to time. So again, same process for parents to go into ManageBack, clicking on Files, and then you can find the assessment schedule for that particular class or subject, and you can read through the assessment requirements and how they are scheduled throughout the semester and year. So the assessment schedule does provide some general kind of key dates or timelines for when units are covered, topics and themes are covered, and content is covered, through to formative and summative assessments. So 2 really important documents there, the course outline and the assessment schedule. So a natural kind of transition from course outlines and assessment schedules is to talk a little bit about assessment, not only at Year 7, but across the school. And I'm actually going to pass over to the Vice Principal, Mr. Richard Todd, who's just going to guide us through a couple of slides around assessment. Again, not a huge amount of information, but really important information to help us understand as parents how formative and summative assessment is an important part of our practice at ACG School Jakarta. Over to Richard.
Thank you, Sean. Good afternoon, everybody. It's very nice to be with you this Tuesday afternoon. As Sean said, assessment, formative and summative, it's a really important part of the teaching and learning experience. And as you'll be aware, a main focus of the school this year is communication. So in the light of knowing that, we want to be able to communicate through our teachers to our students and obviously back to home as well about the progress that your son or daughter is making in each of the subject areas. So obviously one of the biggest ways, one of the clearest ways we can do that is through feedback and assessment. So I just talk about these slides and why we've got these images. The image that you're looking at here with that intriguing title, The Zone of Proximal Development, I'll talk very quickly about this for the moment. If you focus on the center of that Venn diagram, the shaded area, this is the area where you really need to be operating with students so that we're pushing them forward. This is an area where learning or achievements, skills, content knowledge is just a little bit beyond their grasp, but with the correct scaffolding, the correct support and help, coaching, if you like, from the parents and, from the teachers and the teaching assistants, we can get them moving in the right direction. If you look on the left, it says what is known, or another way of looking at it, what they can already do. We don't want to be keeping children there. We don't want to create a stagnant atmosphere. And by the same token, on the right-hand side, what is not known, we don't want to be making things too difficult for children so that they give up. So this zone of proximal development, this is where we're aiming to be giving young children the feedback they need to try the next thing. So formative and summative assessment are ways of explaining and reporting on children's development. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, what's formative assessment? If you look at the first four letters of the word, F-O-R-M, form, when something is forming, it is becoming, it is growing. So what is formative assessment and feedback? It's the assessment and the feedback for learning. So feedback in a formative sense is designed to improve performance. Feedback is very specific. It's about the actual thing that they're doing. An example that I like to use here is if you're a young child learning how to do a forward roll in a PE class, the formative feedback that they get from the teacher about how to tuck your head in, how to push your body forward using your feet. These are really good examples of feedback from the teacher to the student about how they're doing and how they can make improvements. So assessment tasks and the feedback, they've got to be connected to the skills that are being learned during the unit or during the topic. Feedback is given to students almost immediately, and often in a classroom, it is immediate when a teacher is talking with a student about how they are going through a task or a process. And it can arrive in many different forms, verbal, written, or a demonstration or a video form. And that the feedback is very definitely unique to the student. So you can see that we're building a picture here of a very personalized approach that's very timely, and it's very specific to the student. Next slide, please, sir. Formative assessment are for learning. They are not of learning. So it's not a graded high stakes situation. So formative assessment is not an exam. Okay, it's not a high stakes quiz at the end of a semester. We'll talk about those things in a moment because they're still very useful, but that's not what formative assessment is. Formative assessment is never general in nature. It's not a standalone, it's not hidden, it's not copied and pasted from one child to another. Because those things don't really tell you anything about your learning. Okay, summative assessment. Summative assessment is extremely important, but it's also really crucial that you understand the difference between the kind of assessment that your child is getting. Summative is the assessment of learning. It's final, it's at the end, it's high stakes, and it appears like a judgment on the reports. It won't really, it's not at the right time in the process to help the student improve in that particular skill or that content knowledge. It's a definitive final judgment. That's the way to see it. We're not saying that this is a thing not to do. Definitely we do summative assessment at the end of a unit, at the end of a semester, but it's not the same as formative. They have different purposes. Next slide, please. So summative assessment, it can't really be changed. There's no point in extending a deadline, for example. So a summative assessment, kids need to learn when that deadlines are deadlines and that exams are exams. A summative assessment isn't useful in a formative way. It's useful in a evaluative final way. Next slide, please. Okay, so both of these things are very useful, but in very different ways. This is my message for you today. I want to talk again about summative assessment. This is what an exam board is all about. So the IB diploma exam people, when they design their exams, they are thinking about summative assessment, final judgment. The IGCSE is another example. Examination boards and the exam designers, that's what they're all about, the summative assessment. Schools are all about formative assessment, even though we do summative assessment. The only way you can get successfully a child through the educational process to the point where they can ace the exams and do very well summatively is if they've received the right amount of high quality formative assessment related to the topic skills that they are studying. Now, very often, students teaching other students, it's one of the best forms of formative assessment, peer assessment. You see it happening all of the time. So this is one of the methods that we do employ in school. We get kids talking to other kids, grading their work, or giving a different approach to maybe conducting an experiment, for example, a different way to make a piece of art, a different way to compose a piece of music. So kids teaching kids as part of a formative process, creating a community of learners where talking about learning is a second nature kind of experience.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, and we are going to just have a look and see if we've got some questions in the chat. So mums and dads who are on the call this afternoon, if you do have any questions about what has been presented, please put that in the chat and we'll try and address them. One of the things that we will be following up with for parents is a more detailed Manage Back workshop. I think one of the things that Richard just mentioned there, from a parent perspective at least, one of your opportunities, I guess, is for your son or daughter to show you Manage Back and to just help you navigate around that platform and show you, you know, where the course outline is, where the assessment schedule is, where the formative and summative tasks are. It'll provide you with information about attendance and academic reports if you've been at our school. We'll move to some questions. So the first question is related to textbooks, which is a really good question to start with. So generally speaking, with virtual schooling, if subject teachers are using textbooks in the classroom, not all subject teachers use textbooks, but if a teacher is using a textbook for their particular course, then that will be made available as a PDF document, generally in their Teams folder, where there are some resources there, so the students can access those textbooks at home. So if you are concerned, or you're worried, or you're thinking, is my son or daughter accessing the right kind of information, reach out to Miss Dina or Mrs. Dickinson, and I'm sure that they will be able to support you. So another question, I guess it's more of perhaps a statement than a question. It's around being connected to teachers through ManageBac. So ManageBac is really our assessment and reporting platform for students, teachers, and for parents. It's not really used as I guess a collaborative space, or a space where there can be ongoing communication, kind of direct connectivity. But from time to time, we do send out messages through ManageBac. But generally speaking, in order to connect with subject teachers, email is still the way to go there. And if that's not working for you, you can arrange to have a Zoom call with a subject teacher if you're wanting to connect with them. But once you start to kind of go into ManageBac and you start to navigate and dig a little bit deeper, as a parent, you'll start to see how powerful a tool that is. The other thing I think to remember as a parent, and Joanne, you could probably comment on this as well. I have 2 daughters at the school, so I do get email notifications once a teacher has assessed or marked a formative task or a summative task. And one of the great things is, as a parent, when I get that email notification, I can see what the task is. I can read the feedback or the comments by the subject teacher and get a real sense of how my daughters have progressed, and then I can have a conversation with them, which is the best part as a parent, to actually not to have the conversation that always ends with nothing, I don't know, or nothing special, you know. So the conversation that's easier to have is, I noticed that you've just had a formative assessment for English, and I can see that you've done really well. What worked well for you? And then you can start to have that conversation with your son or daughter a lot easier than just saying, how was your day, or what did you learn, which is always a question that ends up down the drain. Joanne, any comments there from you?
And I loved it in your house, where it was such a joyous occasion. In my house, it's more, I'm sitting outside and I get the message on my phone, and I jump up and run inside and say, hey, what happened here? So maybe my approach also needs to change, Mr. Hutchinson. But yeah, it keeps you, I mean, our children are older, but it certainly keeps them on their toes as well, doesn't it? Knowing that, you know, the notifications are going out, we're on the same page, we can help if needed, we can, you know, support as much as required. But yeah, certainly it's a great platform, very, very helpful.
Great, thanks, Joanne. I do have another question here. So can you explain the exams procedure in secondary? Is there also an ISA? So let me just, in year 7, like in year 6. So I think I'll take that one. Is that okay? Yep. So first part, in terms of exams, yes, we do schedule mid-year exams and end-of-year exams for year 7. The mid-year exams come up at the end of November, and the end-of-year exams will be towards the end of May, beginning of June. So we have actually published a calendar. It's on our website. You can go to that calendar and check those specific dates. But the exams for year 7 will generally run over a 2 or 3 day period. Some students may have a couple of exams in a day. Not all subjects lead to a sit-down examination. There are some practical subjects that have summative assessment throughout the semester that lead to your son or daughter's semester results. In terms of the International School Assessment, yes, usually we conduct the ISA in September, but this year with virtual schooling, we have pushed that to the second semester. So we will provide some more information to families about the International School Assessment and when they will be conducted, but it'll be in early second semester, hopefully, fingers crossed, when we are back at school, so students have a little bit more of an opportunity in an environment where those assessments can be administered. But ISAs are certainly not high stakes. They are diagnostic in nature to give parents and students and teachers a little bit of a snapshot of where students are at compared to other students from like schools in the region and around the globe. So a couple of other questions here. Is there any way that all teachers keeping it consistent in posting their assignments, homework in one place instead of all over the place, such as some emails, ManageBack and Microsoft Teams? It's also difficult to track homework in Microsoft Teams, especially, oh, I won't read that because that's the student's name. So it's just talking a little bit about managing time and responsibility. I might pass that to Richard as I read the rest of the question. Richard.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it's a great question, and consistency is it's a vital part of the communication, the whole thing about communication, because if students or parents don't really know where to look, then communication is going to suffer. This year, we are trying to make a very strong platform about communication, and teachers have been told that what we expect on ManageBack is that this is where all matters curriculum, including homework, this is where they are posted. They're not posted anywhere else, and the straightforward reason for this is that over the last couple of years, we've realized that one of the things that parents want to see is they want to know what the work is, when it's due, what it relates to in terms of units, and if they can see formative feedback, great. If they can see the grades. So ManageBack is the platform for that. So please bear with us while we adjust to a new way of working, because ManageBack is still a relatively new platform. in the school. We've been used to using Teams for many different functions here. So please be a little patient with us, and I'm sure you will be rewarded that throughout the school year, we'll get more and more used to posting all of the homework, all of the formative and all of the summative tasks and feedback on ManageBack. I think that was the correct answer, Mr. Sean.
That was pretty good, yes. And I'm sure all of our faculty are listening carefully with that one. And yes, it is a bit of a transition for us to make sure that communication is on ManageBack, so that it's easy for students and it's a little easier for parents. One bit of advice for parents: talk to your son or daughter, make them responsible for the learning, for their homework, for their time management. One of the other things is to, and it's a very hard thing to do, but if they do fall, if they are not as successful as perhaps they could be, we're there to support them and to help them get back up, bounce back up, and tackle another task with a positive mindset. So thank you, Richard, for your comments there. Another question that's come through is actually a really good one, and certainly in our current environment, there is a lot of screen time involved, certainly at Year 7. To minimise the screen time after school, would it be possible to have books in print? Really good parent question. In fact, one that I'm writing about, I'm in the middle of writing about it this afternoon, and that is taking a brave step to look at giving students access to our library. So we are looking at that, thinking about that, how that will be managed in terms of that opportunity to have that physical book. So we are hoping as an academic leadership team that we'll have some information out very soon about that. And even though we have provided students with access to online fiction, I really appreciate your point that you're making there around screen time. So bear with us on that one. We will try and get some information out to you about when the library will be available. But I do know that Miss Joanne, you have been instrumental in getting the fiction to Year 8 and 9 students through the resource packs. So maybe that's something that we can look at.
I have, yeah. We did it for, yeah, you're right. We did it for the 8 and 9 students. Unfortunately, for the novel for Year 7, it's an ebook. So I didn't really help in that one.
Okay, great. Right, so I've got another question. So notification is good, but we receive it after it passes the due date. Is there any way we can receive the notification about homework to be submitted in advance so we know what our kids need to submit? As most times he has no homework. We get that one quite regularly, don't we? So I think just going back to Richard's comments, we are working towards pushing homework tasks and information through ManageBack. But again, it's not the parents' responsibility to manage homework, it's the student's responsibility. And one of the things that we do understand and are very mindful of, particularly with Year 7 students, is the transition that they are going through at the moment. So they are developing some of those skills around time management, around responsibility, organisation. And so it's not something that is going to happen overnight. Yes, we do have some students that are right on top of it and they're getting their homework submitted on time and they're well organised. But then we do have students who take some time to adjust. And so having parents at home micromanaging them provides them with no opportunity to to develop the skills and the behaviours that will assist them later on in school life. So they're my two bobs worth. Joanne, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Sean. I think it's a case of when the parent who asked earlier is why do we find out about things after? Well, the work is posted on ManageBack and you can see when it's due. And then, but once we post the homework, the notification doesn't go to the parents. It's just posted, but it's available in the calendar. And then what you're saying is that you only find out afterwards. Well, in actual fact, it's already there. So the information is there and then you receive the feedback. But I agree with Sean, we have to be very careful about micromanaging because the kids need to also learn to be independent learners.
Excellent, great. This will probably have to be the last question this afternoon. It's actually a really good one. So is there a research-based project by the end of this year too? So I'm guessing that this parent is perhaps referring to the PYP exhibition, which is a wonderful experience for Year 6 students as a culminating project to end their PYP program. I might just simply answer that one by saying that there is not a major piece that all of the Year 7s will work on for a period of time, but I might just throw to someone like Mr. Ellison, for example, might be a good example there. If Mr. Ellison is online, I don't want to surprise him, but perhaps Mr. Ellison, you could talk a little bit about projects in design technology and how that perhaps addresses the parent's question.
All right. A great question, actually. Can everybody hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Can you all hear me? Oh, okay. I'm live. First of all, welcome everybody. So nice to see people here. I would say that is definitely something that we are working towards. As it's a great question. It's a question that we had a conversation with myself, Mr. Hutchison, not that long ago, where students from Year 7 right the way through to 11 actually spend a considerable amount of time working on a particular project. And what we are looking to do with that is eventually host exhibitions where students will be able to continue from Year 6 with a culmination of ideas and designs that they can exhibit in some sort of end of year show. Obviously that's in the planning stages. We're currently working on projects, so the students are actually working in class with those ideas to be able to create have an end goal for a purpose, a project. So yeah, it's something that we very much are looking forward to doing and creating and showcasing. So great question.
Thanks very much, Mark, for that. And yes, I mean, there are opportunities for students within the particular curriculum areas to participate or work on particular projects. But what Mark is referring to is a pretty major piece to bring that together for an exhibition. Richard, would you like to also talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Mark was saying. Anything that is more in the area of projects, it would be great if Year 7 students could get involved, and they historically have. If we could get them involved with student council and the assemblies that will be starting up on September 18th. We've got our head boy and head girl who are organizing and running the assemblies. Just had a meeting with them today, and there are going to be many opportunities for all students to put themselves forward to prepare something for an assembly. And I think we're still operating Eco Warriors this year as well. So these are opportunities in which students can be involved in things that are involve much more student choice, much more student self-generated management and organization.
Thank you very much for that, Richard. So there are certainly opportunities coming up for Year 7s. I know that some of our senior students may have reached out to Miss Dickinson and Miss Dina for some opportunities for students to get involved in. So, so please have a chat to your son, daughter, encourage them to get involved in as much as they can, and participate in whatever opportunities are presented to them and come forward. So that is it for now. There are a couple of other questions that I will come back to individually with the person who has posted them. But I just want to end by thanking you all as parents for supporting your children at home. I know that it is a challenging time for you as parents, so we really appreciate your support. It's not something that that any of us perhaps imagined that we would be working with Year 7 students, inducting new Year 7 students through a program in term 1. It has been really challenging for everyone, and I just want to extend my appreciation of your support as parents, because I know that that's tough work for all of you. So thank you for your help there and support. If you do need extra support, or if you just need someone to listen to you, if you want to vent, then my door is open, but don't come here. Just certainly drop me an email or a line, and most importantly, reach out to Mrs. Dickinson and Miss Dina and all of the other teachers who are online. We are here to support you and support your son or daughter. So thank you very much. There is a recording of this presentation that will be made available and that will be sent out to you by email. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much for attending. And if you've got any other additional questions, please fire them through to us and we will endeavour to answer your questions. Thanks, everyone. Take care.